You're listening to Flipping the Channel, conversations with experts and executives from the electronics industry. In each episode, we attempt to understand and unravel some of the business and technical challenges brought on by component obsolescence. Here's your host, Bill Bradford, President of Flip Electronics.
Welcome to part 2 of our episode with David Loftus, President and CEO of the Electronic Component Industry Association. In part 1, David shared his thoughts on the state of the electronic component industry and implications for the supply chain. In the second part of this interview, we will discuss the impact of component obsolescence on the supply chain. Let me shift gears a little bit and talk about product obsolescence in our industry. And IHS Markit, a research firm, tracks end-of-life notifications, EOLs, as well as process change notifications. And they've been seeing a trend year on year of increasing number of EOLs in announcements in our industry. And just like to get your take on what you think is the driver behind that.
Well, so there are several. I mean, first off, there are a lot of challenges of a maturing industry. Many bleeding edge technologies, processors and memory and so forth, they utilize Moore's law and they jump to the next node, and everyone knows that their previous generations are either maybe 2 generations old are going to get obsolete and they need to move. But now you're getting to the point where, like, broadline analog guys have had things in production for 30 years. And it's a wonderful annuity in many ways for those companies, and the fact that a lot of their customers have their standard power supply design that they adopted, that they've wrung out all the bugs, and they want to continue to use those same parts over and over and over again from one generation to the next. And part of it is just an issue in that some of the manufacturing equipment breaks down over time. It's not made anymore, that the equipment is obsolete. And a lot of there are guys that are still running 4 and 6 inch wafers. And you just can't buy that equipment anymore. So when it goes down, it's unfortunate, but sometimes companies have no choice. Secondly, is just with so much focus over the last 10 to 20 years on really moving toward a free cash flow model versus just a straight income model. A lot of CFOs and boards are looking at CapEx, and they're looking at how they have these very old, fully depreciated lines, and whether it's worth the investment to continue keeping those lines running. And so it does increase cost over time. I mean, initially when a product is released, it doesn't have the yield, it doesn't have the production economies of scale, and once it gets into higher volume production, that's really where suppliers start making some money. But when volumes start to dwindle, it's very expensive to try to keep outdated equipment calibrated, keep it working, and to be able to continue to secure raw materials that for old package types and things like that the rest of the industry has moved on. And so sometimes it's a compelling need just from a financial perspective to be able to shut down product lines. The other major dynamic that has been happening, though, over the past decade or so is because especially the semiconductor market has been maturing, is the amount of consolidation that's been happening in our industry. And so when industries consolidate, a lot of times these companies have overlapping product portfolios. And the executive teams are faced with the challenge. Do we keep both sets of fabs running? Do we keep these duplicated product lines going that we have to support. And a lot of times a product line rationalization process is necessary to be able to prune the product portfolio of those product lines that are less profitable. They're nearing end of life anyway, and that end of life process is accelerated when an acquisition happens, because it's more distraction to be able to try to keep these duplicate lines running, and so you're seeing that quite a bit these days.
So what about the impact on customers? What are some of the challenges the market is faced with in light of this increasing number of end of lives? Yeah,
of course, customers absolutely hate PCNs. If they make changes to it, they hate PDNs even more. So the process change notice versus product discontinuance notice. I think that most suppliers are, try to keep their customers' interests in mind. They don't just arbitrarily slash product lines, but electronic components manufacturers are businessmen just like their customers, and they have to make certain decisions that may not be completely popular with their end customers. And those end customers, unfortunately, are sometimes faced with really difficult challenges. Number one is they may need to do redesigns, and they may be doing a redesign of a 10, 15-year-old product where they don't have all the original design documentation, or the original design engineers may have left the company or moved on to other roles within the company. And so trying to re-engineer older products is a real challenge and a tremendous cost. It's not only cost of the direct time, but then it's opportunity cost, because you have R&D resources that are tied up just trying to maintain legacy products rather than designing the new latest greatest product that's going to be drive future revenues and competitive position for those companies. So that's really a challenge. And so the other options for companies is sometimes, and hopefully most times, manufacturers are giving horizon reports and some type of heads up to the procurement arms of the customers, so that they know at least 12 months in advance when something is going to become obsolete, and they get the opportunity to then try to estimate how much life they've got left in those products and how much demand they would need, and to be able to place last time buy orders such that they can put product on the shelf and have that product available. Then obviously there's risk there. Number one, there's risk in the fact that they don't buy enough, and they end up having to do that re-engineering anyway, or they end up having to obsolete their own products. The other danger is that they buy too much, and then there's obviously excess and obsolete write-offs that they have to do on obsolete inventory. So there are risks in that. Even with perfect notification, a lot of times there is going to be some type of expense or opportunity cost in trying to help manage that end of life situation.
Yeah, and then when customers run out of options, if they can't get that redesign done, can't find any more parts post the last time buy, at times out of desperation, they'll go to the gray market. What are some of the concerns or risks?
Really, yeah. Unfortunately, that does happen sometimes. Sometimes they do not plan correctly, and they're faced with a really tough situation. And there are quite a number of, let's say, illegitimate sources of product out there, but it is really dangerous. It's really playing Russian roulette with your business. Most companies, most good customers of electronic components pride themselves, just like the electronic component manufacturers, of highest quality and reliability on their products. And a quality hiccup can cause sometimes irreparable damage to your brand. But sometimes out of desperation, you may get a purchasing group that scans the internet, that is in contact with brokers and gray market entities that deal in either gray market excess product that has come back from other customers. Sometimes it is reclaimed product, where you can think of a sweatshop in Asia where people are actually removing active components from old PC boards to be able to try to salvage the expensive components on there, and then they will try to resell those on the gray market. And the worst case, I'll say that's a pretty bad case in itself. But another really bad case is just true counterfeiting, and it's just amazing how much counterfeit product is on the street. Estimates are anywhere between $40 and $75 billion of counterfeit products are in circulation every year, and it's so dangerous. It's a little bit hard to try to say clone an Intel i9 processor, but it's very easy to be able to put out, say, an op amp or some other simple function that you can do a design and you can get it sort of close to the original product, and the counterfeiters sell that, and it may be a quality and reliability issue. It may be a performance issue that's not caught initially until you get product into your end customer's hands, and then you start having field failures. And that's the worst of all worlds, whether it's reclaimed, whether it's counterfeit, whether it's just product that was excess inventory for a contract manufacturer that the bags were broken and the moisture level was exceeded, and these products are unreliable, and you start having field failures, and you have the direct expense of the returns and the rework. But in the worst case, you have product failures of epic proportions. And there have been issues of counterfeits failing in military aircraft, in braking systems for trains. And fatalities have occurred because of this. And just imagine the damage to the brand when there become well-publicized lawsuits because someone took the easy route to be able to buy counterfeit or illegitimate products that really sacrificed the reliability of the product and destroyed the brand of the company that they work for.
Yeah, it's definitely serious business. I know the ERAI tracks reported suspect counterfeit parts of electronic components. We've done some data analysis to show pretty strong correlation among the number of counterfeits of EOL parts versus non-EOL parts, which, when you think of it, intuitively makes a lot of sense, right? The parts that are no longer in the market are going to be at a highest risk for desperate customers and opportunistic folks in the supply chain that try to take advantage of that. I know the ECIA, through your Global Industry Practices Committee, is starting to look into process change notifications and some things. What else do you think, either as part of that effort or other industry efforts, we can do to sort of improve the situation for EOLs and reducing the risk when they happen?
Yeah, so ECIA is definitely taking this on as a major industry challenge this year, and a lot of it is going to be around just really trying to document best practices and around giving notice to customers and how that notice goes not only direct and what resources are available to customers on a proactive basis if they want to subscribe to a supplier's website, but also how those notices flow down through the channel and the channel notifying their end customers, and making sure that certainly customers have as much advance warning as possible and the opportunity to be able to place last time buys if they need it. But also we're looking at people that potential partners out there for customers that utilize artificial intelligence type tools that are able to go out and scan thousands of suppliers' databases on PCNs, compare that back against a customer's current running bill of materials for all their products, and to be able to raise red flags when they see a notice that has not really gone that has been really been recognized by the manufacturer. And so it's we think that there's a lot of opportunity to bring just a recognition, I think, across the industry and all the customers of electronic components about what tools are available out there, what are the best practices, and try to impress best practices within all of our member companies and others in the industry. The biggest recommendation I could give to component customers of electronic components is just, boy, keep the lines of communication open with your suppliers, with the actual manufacturers, with your channel partners. Make sure that you are keeping on top of PCNs as much as possible, and being as proactive as possible in trying to address those problems before it's too late. Once a last time buy is committed and a manufacturer is through with those last builds, a lot of times they're taking equipment off the line. They're in some cases maybe some inventory gets into the channel, some excess inventory, but it's really a bad news for suppliers if they find out late or they don't take proper action within their teams to be able to ensure that there's inventory or some type of contingency and plan to be able to handle the PCNs and PDNs that are naturally going to occur in our industry.
Very good. Well, David, this has been just a very interesting conversation, a lot of thoughtful insights. I appreciate you sharing. Certainly like to emphasize again, EDS is coming back in August. So, we look forward to seeing you out there. I know you have your podcast, the Channel, so we encourage our listeners to check that out. Another forum for great discussion around the supply chain for components. You mentioned Trusted Parts as the inventory search engine. What else can we mention for people to learn more about ECIA?
Well, I certainly invite anyone to hit our site, ecianow.org. We invite anyone that's any prospective members of ECIA to be able to take advantage, to take part in some of our meetings. We hold council meetings and committee meetings really every 4 to 6 weeks, and it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to interact with your peers, to be able to influence best practices in the industry, and really to be able to gather intelligence to be able to better run your business. So highly encourage anyone that's interested. We also have, again, the Trusted Parts site that we have actually an API that can be integrated into your procurement system. So it allows you to be able to plug in a bill of materials and it'll pop back with availability and pricing across multiple suppliers many times, and you'll be guaranteed that it's 100% authorized. So it's not just a manual effort in going out to our website. You can actually use some automated tools to be able to integrate in with your own procurement supply chain tools. So strongly, I highly recommend that to anyone that's interested.
Great. Okay, well, thanks for being on the show, and thanks to our listeners for tuning in to this episode.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Flipping the Channel. This podcast is brought to you by Flip Electronics, where we're making obsolescence obsolete. Visit www.flipelectronics.com for your authorized, hard-to-find, end-of-life electronic component requirements.